In the last video we looked at blanket sheet protection. By that I mean we were protecting every cell within the sheet. This feature is useful when we want to grant no access to the data at all. We want people to be able to look at it but not change it in any way. However, a more common scenario is we want to allow users to enter some data, but we don't want them to be able to edit all data or all fields. For this demonstration, I've built a commission calculator. This commission calculator allows us to select a product from a list, enter a quantity, and using the product, quantity, price, a commission value is calculated. As we can see, we have some quite complex formula going on. What I would like to do is to be able to give this sheet to my users, potentially sales reps, so that they can calculate their own commission. But I don't want them to be able to tamper with my formula. And there's two ways that I don't want them to tamper with it. Potentially I don't want them to be able to edit that formula, which at the moment they can simply delete. But in certain situations I might not even want them to see the formula, because by looking at the formula they may be able to gain certain information. So what we want to create is a situation where these two fields, product and quantity, are freely editable. But my price and commission are completely locked so that no changes can be made. At this stage we need to understand the locked property of cells. First of all, I'm going to select all cells on this sheet. I can now right click and go to Format Cells or use the shortcut Control 1. Here we have the familiar formatting cells options where we can change font, alignment, border, etc. What I'm interested in on this occasion is the Protection tab. And here we see two cells, the Locked tag and the Hidden tag, or checkboxes. As we can see, all of the cells are currently locked. This is the default setting for any new Excel sheet. When a cell is locked and we apply password protection, every single cell that is locked will be just that, locked. No part of it will be editable. Additionally, if we apply the hidden property to our cells, when the sheet is protected, any one of those cells will be hidden. It will not be hidden completely from view, but the contents of the cell will be hidden. Now we've looked at the general cell properties, let's make some changes to the specific cells we want to allow users to edit. To make that specific selection, I'm going to choose just the product and quantity columns. I don't need to include the headers as they shouldn't be edited, and I don't need to scroll off the page, only where I intend for users to have an input. I can again right click and go to Format Cells or use the shortcut Control 1. I'm now going to unlock these cells and click OK. With these cells, they contain my formula. They are already locked by default. I'm happy with that. I want them to stay locked. But I'm also going to hide them. So for this, again, I press Control 1 or right click and go to Format Cells. And from here, I will add the hidden property. Let's try and lock this sheet again. I press Protect. I don't need to include a password because this is just for a demonstration. And click OK. At this point now, let's check that I can edit my cells. These are in fact editable. But if I move on to my price column, you'll notice in the formula bar, no information is visible. The result is displayed, but I don't get to see how it is calculated. And similarly for commission. Also importantly, if I try and change this cell, Excel will tell me the sheet is protected. So let's just recap on a couple of aspects. At the moment, the worksheet is protected, so the locked property of the cells comes into effect. If I'm to unprotect the sheet, cells that are locked, such as these, or cells that are unlocked, such as these, will all be editable. I can come in here and change this cell. So the locked property and the hidden property will only ever come into effect once sheet protection is applied. There's another best practice rule worth mentioning in this situation. At the moment, the way that my cells are formatted, they all look the same. A user would be forgiven for thinking that they can type into these cells and probably also type into those cells. This is not in fact the case. These cells are protected. So it's a good idea to try and add some sort of visual cue to the data. One option might be, for example, to use a cell style such as explanatory. This kind of grey italicized text might indicate that it's sort of inactive text, like can occur sometimes with menus within Excel or Word. Or we might want to simply change the color completely, restoring the default font, but change the background of these cells to a different color, indicating that these cells will be treated differently. That way, if the user does experience an error when they try to edit, they will very quickly understand what area is protected and which one isn't. So to recap, each of our cells has locked and hidden properties that are found within Format cells. The locked property will mean that that cell is not editable once sheet protection has been applied. The hidden property will mean that the contents of the cell is not visible once sheet protection is applied. When the sheet is unprotected, both of these rules are irrelevant.